Oh, that's true. We could try. We could. I
Simulcast. Um, yes, and we are now live.
Yes, and.
We're live.
Oh, hello.
Hello, internet.
Oh, is that just my headphones that are that loud?
I could also be screaming into the mic.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
All right. We ready?
yeah.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
It's Lilith Fair meets The Sandlot. We watched Foxfire starring Angelina Jolie, so that means it's time for another Portland at the Movies.
In a world, in a time, in a land of eternal beauty, all that stands between a city and a disaster, in a city where anything can happen. If you thought you had seen it all,
Uh-oh, we're in trouble. Something's come along and it's burst our bubble.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Portland at the Movies. My name is Todd Borkoven and I am here with Mark Middleton. How are you, Mark?
I'm really well.
Good. And of course, Brian the Unipiper Kid. How are you, Brian?
I'm very well.
We have been Foxfired, the 1996 Angelina Jolie.
Is that a verb now?
I've just verbed it. I've just made yes, gerund. I believe I just is a noun acting as a verb. But this movie, I was just looking beforehand before we started, and I couldn't quite figure out why I know the name, other than it's just a writer that's been on in the culture. But this movie was based on a novel by Joyce Carol Oates, who I think is maybe I don't know if she does just YA or if she's just a general novelist. But I always kind of put her in the same category as like S.E. Hinton, where it's like a lot of young kids, middle age, teenager story and stuff like that. But this is who wrote the novel that this movie is based on.
So is it a young adult novel originally?
And I don't know, and I think I could be just making that part up in my head that she
Hmm.
did YA, because like I said, I can't figure out why I know her name, because not a lot of her books sounded familiar, and I think I've just read her name a lot.
The subject matter seemed awfully deep to be entirely young adult.
It did seem deep, but it was handled, I think, in a very YA way, except for a couple, except for all the boobs that show up. But other than that, like the way that some of the things wrap themselves up and some of the plot contrivances seemed
Yeah.
very kind of convenient, and like they weren't. That wasn't the point of the story. The point of the story was, obviously the friendship and stuff like that. So, the story of this movie is Angelina.
Tell us this,
The
Todd.
story of Foxfire. Gather around, kid. Gather around the Foxfire, and we will talk about this movie.
From an ancient time of 1996.
1996.
Back when Portland was weird.
This movie was very, very 1996. There was a lot of the 90s happening in this.
The 90s called and they want their movie back.
They do. And I asked, none of us were here in Portland in 96.
I was.
Oh, were you?
Yes.
So do you remember anything
No.
from this? So yeah.
Not at all.
I don't. I asked a couple of people yesterday who were in the Northwest around that time, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I love that movie." So I think it has
Huh.
a lot more foothold in the people that grew up, because I didn't think that this was a bad movie.
Well,
No, I enjoyed it.
the first thing I noticed was that it looked and felt and sounded like an actual movie.
It
Which is
did.
a big step up for us.
I thought this movie was
It
beautifully shot. I thought it was really well
cinematographer.
directed.
It had a plot.
It had a plot, had
characters that had arcs
and characterization, which
and you empathized for them, like you got to know them and you felt bad for them.
yeah, and even the first I watched it twice. The first time I watched it on my VHS copy here, which was formatted for my TV, which means it was the 4:3, the old.
Snip,
And
snip.
even in 4:3, I was like, this is really well. And then I watched the widescreen, which is like super wide. I noticed that halfway through the movie that they used nice wide angles and were able to fit a lot of things in.
Yeah,
And
there's lots of nice bridge aerial shots.
these bridge shots of Broadway Bridge are amazing. I was talking with
Yep.
Mark earlier about how they were. I can't believe what they were able to do on it. It just looked like they were all of the main characters were walking up on it, and like extended shots of them up there with looked like no safety
Yeah, clearly
gear
the
and-
actors were on top of the bridge, like
Yeah.
legit up there.
Yeah, and Angelina's hanging off the side at some point, which she was really doing that too. There's a couple shots that it could have been I'm sure it was
Yeah.
a stunt person, but
Do-
even then it was just really well shot.
Do you think this is the most Portland movie we have watched yet?
So, yes and no. How many times was Portland mentioned in
yeah.
the movie?
That's
Yeah,
true.
not even the
I-
Northwest wasn't even mentioned. The
I-
only mention that
no.
I noticed was they say the beach once,
Okay,
and that's
right.
it.
So
But it was definitely the best representation of tone and cinematography and look and feel, and like I
especially
wanted to move there.
yeah, especially for that time for
Yep.
1996.
It
It's a
was-
great like
It was really interesting to see all of the Pearl District not having all of those buildings. It was still that's when everything was still industrial and before all the condos started
Yeah.
coming. So that was really interesting. But
So I did read that the novel was well they really changed the setting for this. So the novel was set in the 1950s
oh wow,
in New York.
oh wow.
So they changed the time period by about 40 years, and then they changed the setting from New York to Portland. And I was asking myself, and I really wanted to know, like, why? What was the thought there?
I'm sure they got a tax break for
I-
filming here.
Totally.
I have a theory.
Yeah.
So what was going on in 1996? So it was right at sort of as the grunge was kind of
Yeah.
Yep.
dying down. So I'm thinking that they had this story and they decided that they wanted to set it in just like where grunge was happening. And maybe
Wanted
that's
to
why
be gritty.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's why they didn't call it Portland specifically, but it was Northwest enough.
Right. That could be. They
Yeah.
wanted to make it authentic or whatever.
Right. So and then it was also, right around the time that girl power was a thing.
Yes.
So this is like right at
This
that
is the ascendancy to the Spice Girls, as they
Yes.
call it now, the mid 90s.
one step away.
One step away from the Spice Girls. We're in between Alanis Morissette and the Spice Girls,
Right,
right where
that's
this movie falls.
All we needed was some hair
Right.
dye and we would have had the Spice Girls.
Right.
Yeah, so this this movie did look and sound and feel very 90s, but like I said, I thought it was like shot really well. Starting with so a lot of this is shot at Lincoln High School.
Now, is that
which
the same high school that we keep seeing pop up in things like Dr. Giggles?
I don't know. I
was
don't
that
think
another-
so.
was that
Those
a
were all in
different- that's-
Southeast.
Is that what
Roosevelt.
is that? Roosevelt, another
I think that's
president.
Roosevelt.
Oh, the one in Foxfire or
In
No,
the
no,
other
no.
one.
oh, in the other
Dr.
ones?
Giggles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
and
don't
Mr. Holland's Opus.
I don't think we've
And that's Grant.
done. Jeez. But yeah, whatever is over there by the Vista Bridge is used in this.
Uh-huh,
yeah.
The Broadway Bridge. Underneath the Vista Bridge, they do some things, and they have a street race somewhere around.
The Burnside Skate Park.
No, the Burnside Skate Park makes a reappearance in this
Yeah.
one, which was neat to see.
Let's just lay it out there. What else do we see in this movie?
What else do we see?
You
we
want to
s-
see some screenshots?
Yeah, let's look at some screenshots.
All
here.
right. So
For those of you watching on Facebook.
So there's Angelina on top of the Broadway Bridge. And it was kind of how they kind of edited it back and forth, so this GIF is a little short, or this GIF is a little short.
Thank you.
But like you see her not just standing up right there, you see her climb up through it and then stand up. So it wasn't just like she's harnessed down. I mean, she was really out and about on this bridge. It
think-
was kind of shocking.
do I have another? Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of shots of the Broadway
Yeah.
Bridge at golden hour, and
Yep.
and
Yeah, and the bridge looked really, really beautiful. So this must be
Lincoln High.
Lincoln High.
Yep.
I don't know where this shot is, but this is the beginning of our entry. It opens in a school. They're all going to do frog dissection.
Well, I would
at
assume
the
that's
school.
Lincoln High School.
It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never really been
Because
out
the
that
car
area.
pulls up and then she gets out and walks into the school.
We don't see her walking to school though, so I don't know if that's across the street, but
No.
it could be. It could very well be. I don't know. But even that shot, and so that shot is maybe a minute or so into the movie, or a couple minutes, and the way, if you want to go back to that picture, Mark, the camera is on the ground. The
Oh, this one?
car, yeah, the
Yep.
car pulls over the camera.
the
It doesn't
yeah.
pull in front; it pulls over the camera, and then it
Mhm.
like films her feet coming out.
And then it turns while it's under the
Yeah,
cars on
and
top of the camera
I can't figure out how in the world they would have done that in like 1996
without a GoPro.
Yeah,
well,
because
I mean, you could have done it from open a manhole.
I suppose I was just thinking about
yeah.
the size of cameras back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really impressed about. So Angelina Jolie shows up. They introduce her. Oh, we're still going through. Sorry.
No.
We're still let's go through the rest of the pictures. Also get distracted.
let's
Broadway Bridge. Yeah, this is her climbing up on the Broadway Bridge and freaking everybody out.
Yeah.
And up there on top, and more of the Broadway Bridge. And here is them graffitiing Foxfire
Foxfire at the-
onto the Burnside Skate Park.
The only graffiti there I'm noticing, and it just says
Now, what did that say?
it says Burns and
and-
Burns. I think maybe it was like a Burns and Burnside.
I have no
I
idea.
don't know. We're
But-
not cool enough.
That reminds me, I'm going to tell a completely unrelated story, but it's kind of funny. So I worked with a guy. His last name was Burns, and we always made this joke that what's the longest sentence that we could make using just his last name is different parts of speech, and so it's like Burns, 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 and it's like
Buffalo, 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 Buffalo.
Yeah, we
Exactly.
had that, on our last Mark and Toddcast, we talked
oh,
about that.
I guess I haven't listened yet.
Oh, charade, you are. So yeah, I don't know if that meant anything. The Burns and Burns at the graffiti. I don't know if that means anything. I don't know where that is. It's somewhere up, probably
We
by
can see
Lincoln High.
See the Wells Fargo building in the background
Yeah.
there,
And
and
the CBS.
It's
Tower.
probably a condo now.
Yeah, really.
it really is.
That's on.
Is this on the Vista Bridge?
Yeah, I
that's
think
on
so.
the Vista Bridge. Yeah, quite a few key scenes are on top of the Vista Bridge,
So
which looks really cool.
The Vista Bridge now has this fence that goes up really high,
yeah,
and you can't get to the sidewalk anymore.
yeah.
wow.
There was a lot of people
Taking their lives.
taking. Yeah, so sadly, I think that's why they had to build a bigger fence around those or around that.
Where is
That one has
that?
it has a sign. It's on Nebraska, and I'll have to look it up. I
Oh,
know it's
yeah.
north. I guess it
Oh,
would
totally.
be southwest Nebraska, maybe.
Huh.
And I didn't know if that was getting down to.
Oh, there's the Oregonian newspaper booth.
And a telephone booth.
Yeah, there you go.
A payphone.
Payphone.
Look, kids.
That's so old timey.
And then this is down in Macadam. I can't think of the name of the restaurant.
You said you got
But-
fantastic crepes there. French toast.
French toast. They make it overnight. And
Where
it's
is that?
It's down on Macadam, down across the street from OPB.
Oh, in like the Johns Landing area.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So they were really all over town.
Yeah, and they end this movie with one of my favorite shots I've ever seen from a movie, which is
Yeah.
our main character, not like some stand-in, but it's like a kind of a close-up of her standing up again on top of the Broadway Bridge, and it's a helicopter shot, and they just slowly fly the helicopter away all in one shot for like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It is
It's really,
Beautiful.
really
I'm
neat.
really sad that the credits were over top of it because it was just really cool to see and just a really well done shot. And like that girl is just up on that bridge, like walking around. It just amazed me. I don't know why.
And I mean, they
I was so
pull out
astonished
and
by it.
You don't see any like safety net or
No,
anything.
ever. And I never saw it with Angelina either. Like she was just climbing up around there and standing on things, and it was kind of shocking. And like it didn't seem like it was low budget enough that they were like, oh, we'll just skirt the rules or whatever. Like
Right.
this is a major release. They wouldn't be doing that. But so Angelina, the story of this movie is it's some girls in high school. Yeah, boy. So it begins with everybody needing to dissect a frog.
It's a coming of age story.
It's a coming of age. Yeah, it totally is a coming of age story. And Angelina is one of the girls who, Rita is her name. I think she looked like
Jenny Lewis, the redhead.
Jenny Lewis. Okay, why do
Yeah.
I know Jenny Lewis?
Because she went on to become an indie rock darling.
That's right.
She was
wow.
the frontman for the band Kylo Riley.
Yeah,
Kylo
yeah,
Ren,
yeah,
Rilo
yeah.
Kylie. Before releasing several solo albums. And
Okay.
She's great. I love her. And she was also in The Wizard with Fred Savage.
With Fred Savage.
She was
oh,
the girl
funny.
in that movie.
Oh, funny. Yeah, and she was really all I thought all the actors in this I thought were really really good.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that like a lot of these movies about a group of kids, they all have like they play the role. Jenny Lewis was supposed to be the chubby one, and the one that was like the promiscuous, the slut.
Yeah.
She was a no name. They found her locally, and she worked at Movie Madness.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
She was really good too.
I know.
Oh, that blows my mind. That's
I wonder if
crazy.
she's still here.
Maybe.
If
Oh,
you're
she should be a
listening,
guest. You're listening to this. You were great, and come on our show.
you're great. I'm sorry I didn't bother to learn your name.
Oh,
Uh, so Angelina Jolie comes to town. We see her getting out of the car in that one shot I was describing, and you see two like motorcycle boots step out of the car, and you follow these two boots and obviously what looks like a biker into school. They're playing like the rock and roll music that you always associate with like here's the bad boy coming to
Yeah.
town. They follow her into school, and then they do the
Well, at this point, they'd be following him into school.
him into school, and yeah, in fact, the security guard at the school says, "Hey,
Young man.
young
hey,
man,"
fella.
yeah, and then that's when we get the full body Jolie pan, where it goes all the way up, all the leather jacket, and then it's her with her little Dorothy Hamill haircut, and she just shows up.
She's got like a butterfly knife, I think, too.
Yeah, she slides that underneath the metal detectors,
Oh,
which
yeah.
that was interesting this is pre-Columbine,
Right.
and they had metal detectors
I did think that was
at
interesting.
the gates, and I wonder if that was just for that moment where she slides it under and sneaks her knife inside. She saves Jenny Lewis from having to dissect the frog.
The live frog.
I
Did I miss?
wondered
Did I
if
miss
those
something growing up? Like,
either. Well, no, I think people used to do that, but in this movie, I thought they also looked real and were just pinned down.
oh, definitely they were real in the
They were
movie.
real
And I didn't know
pinned
how
down.
they
Yeah,
passed that
yeah.
through. I guess I didn't see in the credits if any animals were harmed because
Did you grow up dissecting live frogs?
So-
we didn't do live frogs.
We did, yeah. So, but when live frogs were dissected, they were pithed, so that they.
I would be angry too.
Good. Let's see what you did there.
Let's see. And so they basically take a needle and they
Anesthetize them.
break the spinal cord so that they have no
Oh,
sensations of anything.
Not really
But their
helping.
their heart still beats.
Oh, thank goodness.
And so,
Thankfully,
as
we
you're
can cut
dissecting
them up
it,
alive.
just so we can see their heartbeat.
that's
Wow.
what we did.
Yeah, I do remember dissecting
Wow.
frogs, but not live ones. I don't know if I
No.
would have been able to do a live
I wonder if they
one.
stopped that. Like maybe this movie caused them to
Cause
stop.
this- yeah. Yeah, so Angelina takes the frog and throws it out the window, and the teacher's like, "You're suspended." And she goes, "I don't even go here."
And then
And
she
jumps out the
jumps out the window and
Into
walks
the
away.
rain.
Yeah.
which is really bizarre because
After she had released the frog in the same,
Yeah.
she released the frog outside.
out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in the next scene, she's in the girls' bathroom with the rest of the girls, and so she had to have like then come back in the school
Toweled
somehow.
off. Just went back to
Which-
the entrance again.
Which means, yeah, either she did the same thing by missing the security guard and passing the metal detectors, or she crawled back in through the window.
Yeah, through the window, the bathroom window. So all these girls are having a discussion in the bathroom about how the teacher, Mr. Buttinger, has been harassing and been sexually aggressive towards all of them, and they're not really friends, the girls, but they're all kind of like, oh wow, he's done that to me too, and so Angelina's like, well, why haven't you stopped him? And so talks them all up. Then we get the scene with Mr. Buttinger and Jenny Lewis. No, is that the one?
Yeah, that's
Rita?
the one that it has detention.
I was
Uncomfortable.
uncomfortable and shocked that he was really fondling her. It wasn't like I'm just touching your collar and we kind of all imply
Yeah.
that's gross. Like it was,
I'm gonna unbutton your shirt
Yeah.
and go for it.
yeah.
Knowing how these movies are, she was probably wearing some sort of like
oh,
padded
sure,
body
sure,
suit.
but still,
It was
I
still
mean,
very
it was
uncomfortable
a
to
full-grown
watch.
adult, and
Yeah, it was getting the message across.
so yeah, totally. And so she, as this is happening, as the teacher is sexually assaulting her, the other girls walk in and interrupt, and they end up getting in this crazy fight. They smash Mr. Buttinger's head against the desk and breaks his nose. All the girls leave, and then they kind of all run away, and because they weren't really friends to begin with, they just kind of all got caught up in this thing.
Oh, that's the quote you should have led with. Should have played the quote what she says she's gonna do to the teacher. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I forget the exact quote though.
If I
Like,
see you doing this again, I'll
I'm
Take a-
gonna
put your balls in a.
take these tweezers and snip your tiny
I'm-
little
I'm
nuts
gonna
off.
Oh, that's
snip your
right.
tiny little nuts off with my fingernail
Fingernail
clipper.
clippers. That's right. That's right. So later that night, Maddie, who is the main character, we haven't really talked about Maddie yet.
Oh,
She looks
yeah.
like maybe from Arrested Development. She was
Yeah, she
also,
kind of does.
yeah, she was also very good. She's kind of our main character. The movie starts with her rollerblading through school,
She's
taking.
kind of the least memorable.
She's also the least likable. Like the movie starts with her talking about how like everyone sucks and like we're
Let's-
all conformists, and she's like invading people's space and like taking Polaroid pictures of them all at that stupid like Dutch angle where it's like I'm creative and like snapping pictures of people and
Can we talk about how the movie actually
Actually,
starts with her?
I was going to
Yeah.
say the same
oh,
thing.
oh sorry, I blocked that out. Mark, why don't you tell us how the movie literally opens on
It opens on a naked male butt, and we see a lot of him naked, and
You have no idea what's going on though. It's just a man naked in the woods.
yeah.
but we learn that he's having kind of a little photo shoot with a girlfriend, and they're
With maybe.
frolicking and everything. And
Yeah,
it's-
but it opens on man buns. Right there.
yep.
And he ended up playing a role in Twilight movies.
He did, yeah. And now
Which
I'm
we
forgetting-
know because we played the Twilight Seen It game.
That's right, we did. I'm forgetting his name now. Peter Facinelli, and he's a character actor that's shown up in a bunch of things. But I always get Peter Facinelli mixed up in my head with Milo Villamantiga, or that guy who was on Heroes that shows up on a bunch. Anyway,
Nothing.
No.
it's a side story. So, so yeah, we open with his buns. Oh, so we're back in Maddie's room, the main character, the maybe
who has a
what looks like
really
maybe.
awesome bedroom.
Yeah, she does. It's like this full-on cool, artsy loft looking thing.
Yeah.
She's photoshopping her art. Do you remember?
Yes.
It shows her screen and like it's this
like-
really old Mac.
Photoshop version 1.0.
It
Yep.
is, and she's literally all she is doing is it looks like she has scanned the Polaroid, which it also bothered me because she was just taking tons of Polaroid. Polaroids are $1 a piece. And I was like, you are wasting a phenomenal amount of money on these stupid pictures. But she scanned them in and then like would do a squiggle like you would do on your finger now on the iPhone, or like Perez Hilton
On
used to
Instagram
do.
stories.
Yeah, where it's like you're just writing with your finger, and like she was just like making a doodle, and that was her art. Which I thought was a little crazy.
It kind of reminded me of something you'd see in Clarissa Explains It All.
You know, it's funny because I couldn't, Jenny Lewis, throughout the movie, I kept calling her Clarissa because I've never seen Clarissa Explains It All, but it seems like she would have been on a show like that at the end of the 90s. She just looked like kind of that wholesome Disney,
Yeah.
Disney girl. So Angelina Jolie shows up in Maddie's room and kind of says, well, I don't have a place to sleep. Can I sleep here? She stays overnight, sneaks out the next morning, and then they all. What happens after that? Oh, all the girls get suspended because they get called into
right,
the principal's
next day.
office.
Yeah.
So they are asked to immediately leave school. Maybe can't even get her art project. The principal's like, no. She's like, but
You should have thought of that before.
yeah, it's due tomorrow to this college I'm applying for. And the principal of the school's like, well, too bad. Too bad
So,
about your future.
did anyone recognize the principal of the school?
Ooh, I didn't.
He was on Twin Peaks.
Oh, interesting.
And he was not the only Twin Peaks alumni in this movie.
Really?
Yes. The father of the girl
Gloria.
who always gets
Shimizu.
beat. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her father was also in Twin Peaks. He played Hank. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
thought that
I thought he
was-
looked familiar, but I didn't watch Twin
I
Peaks.
thought it was
but-
interesting that there were two Twin Peaks actors, and I was just wondering if maybe they happen to live in the Northwest.
Maybe. Oh, that's funny. So all the girls get suspended, and I'm guessing they didn't really explicate this in the story, but I think they must not have told their parents that they were suspended, and instead of going to school, they would go to the abandoned house on the
Correct.
river.
Yep.
Okay, so apparently schools didn't let your parents know
The-
when you got
been
expended.
In my mind,
Suspended. Right.
or
The
expended.
Expendables.
I was imagining when I was watching this that abandoned house was the same abandoned house from Dr. Giggles, and that these movies are connected in the Portland cinematic universe.
Oh, I want there to be a
That'd be
Portland
incredible.
cinematic universe. They all tie together.
Somewhere out there is Burt Reynolds running around with his little sidekick.
It was weird. I was driving to pick up Mark from downtown earlier today, and I drove past the movie marquee, and Breaking In, which is a new 2018
Oh,
movie or
right.
whatever, but it was the Burt Reynolds filmed in Portland thing, and to see Breaking In up there
And when you
was
picked
pretty
me
funny.
up, you were across the street from the storefront from Frozen Assets.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've been there
right there.
twice now, and I didn't even look.
Yes.
I got my battery changed at the across from the Homer and Eddie German Oktoberfest hall,
I know.
which was pretty amazing.
That was a great photo.
So instead of going to school, all these girls, there's 4 or 5 of them. There is Jenny Lewis, there is Angelina Jolie, there is Shimizu,
5. There's 5.
and
Who are you forgetting?
the redhead
movie
movie madness.
Yeah, movie madness.
What was her name in this movie?
Was it Vicky? Rita?
Rita? No,
No,
Rita is the other
Jenny
one. Did they
Lewis.
call her Red, or was that somebody else? I'll
Oh,
just call her Red.
No, they called Jenny Lewis Red.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Uh,
we'll call her movie madness. We're so sorry we don't know your name. Please come on our show.
Violet.
Violet,
okay.
totally.
So they spend all this time in this abandoned house that's somewhere on the river, and they fix it up. By the end of the movie, the house is beautifully appointed. They've decorated the whole thing, and it becomes through the movie kind of a refuge for other girls who are like, "You did the same thing to me," or "I'm having trouble with my boyfriend." It kind of becomes this little refuge, this safe house.
If
You
they-
guys have a reputation, and you can help us.
Yeah, yeah.
If they'd filmed this today, they would have been the 5 of them living in a small house.
A tiny house, totally.
That monstrosity on Burnside is where they'd be all in. So it's because she couldn't get her art before being suspended, they all have to break in to the school after hours in order to steal her art portfolio. And then we get a really. I was again amazed at this movie what this pulled off, because they built an entirely separate interior for the school that really did a good job of looking exactly like a school, or they just flooded that whole place with the sprinklers.
Oh,
Because
that's
after the fire
true.
starts, and it wasn't like it was just the a sprinkler right up close to camera, like you could see all the way down the hallways, like water everywhere in what I was assuming is Lincoln High School.
You know, I bet if they filmed it during the summer when school was out, I bet they could have gotten away with that.
They filmed it over spring break, it said,
Oh,
at
okay.
Lincoln High, which I mean, it would still give them a break, but I can't imagine that just
That's-
turning on the sprinklers is like a thing that you can do and not suffer any
Kids,
consequence
make sure you
from.
take home everything in your locker. We will be turning sprinklers.
But yeah, I was impressed. I mean, it could have been a set, but that was the most realistic looking high school set, because there was lots of hallways. They do that other thing in movies where they all crawl through the vents.
Oh, yeah.
That is a huge
I want to see a
movie
super
trope.
cut of people
Just
crawling.
people crawling.
through
Do you think
vents.
is Die Hard what started that, or did that
Ah,
happen? Was that has
I
just been always
feel
a
like
thing?
it must have happened before.
People crawling through those little
As- you're
little
right.
vents
As
attached
long
with
as there
wires
have
on
been
ceiling,
vents, people have been
crawling
in
through them. So they accidentally burn the school down because while they're recovering her
That's a little bit
art-
of an overstatement, Todd.
I guess that didn't burn down. They just set off the
Yeah,
sprinklers.
they just put the
They
fire
start a
right
fire.
out. Yeah,
Okay.
they did not.
I
Burn
guess
down
it
the
didn't quite
school.
escalate that quickly, but yeah, the sprinklers turn on. They all have to run away. They all escape in this great kind of little Scooby Doo chase with the security guards and firemen, and there was something also, and then they all run back to their house again, and for some reason they have because when they're getting suspended, someone says. The principal says something like, girls who run with foxes.
Yeah, what did that mean?
Is that a saying that I'm not aware of? It sounded like he was like, that old saying, girls who run with foxes. Because that's like the
I've
whole,
never heard
this
of
movie is
that.
called Foxfire, because then they all get Foxfire tattoos.
So I was okay.
I
Let's
guess I
talk
didn't-
about the title then.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it probably explains it more in the book. I'm just guessing.
Right.
But in the movie, the only thing we have to go on that you would even know that they're called Foxfire is when they do the graffiti on the Burnside Park.
Yeah.
That's the only time.
Yeah, they don't even
They don't
refer
even
to their
call
tattoos
themselves.
as yeah, it's not
No, there's one other scene when they're using the internet If you read some of the text that they'd been chatting and IMing, they
Yeah.
said Firefox in there, but it's not at all clear.
Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, if you're keeping score, so this is not the 1982 Clint Eastwood movie Firefox. It's not the
You mean Foxfire?
1987. No,
No,
that was
okay,
Firefox.
that's Firefox.
It's not the 1987 drama Foxfire, starring Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin, both of Cocoon, and it just not the web browser either. But
Cocoon.
I just googled girls who run with foxes, and some chat room on wordreference.com. Hi everyone. I was watching a movie tonight. The title is Foxfire. The principal calls them and asks them, "What are you girls? Some sort of gang? Girls who run with foxes? That sort of thing?" What does the principal mean by that? Is that a quote from something?
Okay, go on. What does the reply say?
Some of them are not in English. Yes, it's actually a reference to literature. The title of the book, Women Who Run with Wolves, by Clarissa Estes. It's a relatively common phrase. It refers to these wild animals of breed.
But you say wolves?
Yeah. And it didn't, Google didn't autofill. Maybe it wasn't, if she wrote it in the 50s, maybe it was like an expression from the 50s.
Maybe. So in the context of the movie, though, okay, so maybe they said that to get the fox part, and then the fire comes from the fact that they set fire in the school, and then they get the tattoo and they just combine it. Which is a little bit weird because Foxfire in and of itself is a thing. You didn't know that?
Did I?
Oh, it's science.
I know. Oh, I
Mark,
said I know the
what
story from the
is-
Bible where
It's a
Samson
great
Here we
did
go.
all the.
I'm gonna try it.
Okay. Okay.
Mark, what is Foxfire?
I've heard of it, and I don't know.
Oh,
man,
wow.
I do know
Like-
this, and like I
Okay.
didn't have
Ah,
to. I didn't have to
I'm
look
excited.
it up. This is where my biology degree comes in play.
Nice.
So some species of fungi will bioluminesce in the forest, and they will give off a green glow.
Ooh.
And sometimes it can even be bright enough to see and like read by
Oh,
in
wow.
the forest, and
And they call it
that glow is
Foxfire.
called Foxfire.
Huh.
Like
well, that-
Avatar.
And the name comes not from anything with the actual animal, but it's like in French, the word for false. It actually kind of means like false fire.
fire.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Huh.
Well, that doesn't add up either
Faux
with
fi-
this movie.
yeah.
No, it-
Faux
Faux fire.
fire.
I started to place the mini version of the movie playing in the lower right hand
Oh yeah.
corner.
Did it not work?
No, it worked great.
until
do we
got
get
to-
the
opens
man
up to an
ass?
ass. I'm like, oh yeah, can't do this.
And then there are a lot of things. Well, since we're right there in the movie, after they accidentally set a fire, which immediately goes out after they fled the school,
We get the best scene in the movie.
they go back to their abandoned house, and they like what feels like a 25-minute scene. They all lovingly remove their tops and give each other. Angelina Jolie gives everyone a little tattoo of a
Starting with herself.
Foxfire, starting with herself for a long time. There's only one who didn't Clarissa explains it all. Jenny Lewis was the only one who did not remove her top for that, which I thought was interesting.
Actually, I think Vicky.
Or is it the other
I
one?
think no, I think two.
Oh, I
two did
called her.
not.
Violet?
Okay.
I think Jenny Lewis and Movie Madness both did not remove
Violet?
their tops.
Oh, that's right, Violet. So I thought, well, good for them. But I did wonder because this is a very this movie deals with sexual harassment and sexual assault and all of those themes, and obviously a feminist girl power, for lack of a better word.
Well,
for
that's what it
90s
was in
terms.
'96.
Yeah, 96, which I thought it was interesting how you balance nudity in a pro-feminism,
Yeah.
which I didn't think it was exploitative.
No,
or
No,
I
and
didn't
I think
at
it's
all.
about context.
Yeah.
and I think it was appropriate. Like it was, for lack of a better term, intimate between them. They were
Yeah.
bonding and
Right.
and vulnerable to each
Right.
other,
Yeah.
and that helped the bond of this
Of the
gang,
characters.
Right.
come together.
So
and,
this
and
this is the difference between it has nothing to do with the plot and is there for, hey, we're 25 minutes in, we need to
Right.
show some boobs, to this is part of their
Right.
story and adds depth and character.
I
And
think so.
Yeah, because I didn't think it was obviously
Gratuitous,
Gratuitous
or
anything.
it wasn't sexual. It was
Right.
It was
right.
So let's
intimate.
talk about the sexual undertones going on in the film, and particularly amongst the girls.
Yes.
So it is never explicitly shown or demonstrated, that there is any sort of queerness going on,
No.
but it is definitely
The
there.
closest it comes is Maddie, the main character, and Angelina Jolie are talking, and Maddie says, "If I told you I loved you, would you take it the
Wrong
wrong
way.
way?" Um, and then she says, I wrote it
Would you,
down here.
like, would you want me to, or
If I
Well,
told you I loved you, would you take it the wrong way? I'm not your, and she points to Angelina and says your, so implying that
right.
I'm not gay,
Oh.
even though you are, even though the whole movie has been Maddie having like this complete crush
right?
on Angelina Jolie,
Right.
and like it only kind of seeming like it's going that one way.
Right.
So my question watching it was, why didn't they go the full way? Was it A, because they didn't want to and they were scared and audiences weren't ready, or was it more of a choice that it's more implied, it's more subtle, that doesn't need to be the focus?
I think it could be a mix of all that, and I felt that by holding back on that, it gave them more power. Like
Uh,
I felt each of these ladies had significant power that they were working through and demonstrating, and each had their own vulnerabilities and each had their own strengths. And if it was just like devolved to crushes and they kiss and
Right.
and that
Because
and
that was
that's
the
it.
interesting-
Like,
Distract.
it would have taken away the power that they had.
And that
I
was
felt.
interesting because in that scene where she's like, "If I told you I love you, would you take it the wrong way?" is set up for them to end in a kiss, and
Yeah.
maybe or Maddie walks over to Angelina Jolie
And they
then,
get really close.
caresses Angelina Jolie's cheek, and then they hug.
I also was noticing the lighting in that scene. Maddie was earth tones and red and earth tones, very warm spirited, where Angelina Jolie was lit all in blue and very cold.
Oh, interesting.
And so there was definitely this like fire and ice kind of tone in the movie going on of like, I'm coming to grips with something, you're already there, and I'm really interested in what you have,
Right.
and I don't understand it. It's very different from what I have,
Right.
and there was just so much internal exploration with other characters.
Right.
It
There's a
was
lot
just really,
more.
it was really interesting.
There's a lot more going on in this movie than just the script level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why and in fact, I think the script was the weakest part of it. Like, this movie is directed,
Yeah.
it is acted, it is shot beautifully. Like we just talked about all of that subtext and the characterizations, but this movie is not great.
I would agree.
And
Okay.
I think that's the script. It's a little simplistic in some places. Like, everything resolves itself.
I
Like,
think it
oh, they all get in trouble, but they're all still out 24 hours a day after getting caught stealing this car or whatever. And like, that's why in the beginning I said that's what felt YA to me, is like, we didn't really resolve those things, and just like in the Scooby-Doo cartoon, we'll just pretend that, well, it's not in the movie anymore, so it's not happening anymore. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I definitely think it could have been a great movie
Yeah.
with some tweaks.
Yeah, and like I said, I looked up. I should find her name. The director of this, Annette
Annette-
Haywood Carter.
right.
She's done a couple other things, literally like 3 or 4, and that's it. And I don't
So-
know if maybe she is in a different role or position in Hollywood now, doing something, because she kind of had a bunch of other credits doing other things. But it was really well done and really well directed, and it shocked me that.
Yeah, the director and the writer and the producer, like,
Oh wow, Mike Figgis was a producer on this. I didn't see that. Wasn't he Traffic?
I don't know.
I'll look it up.
But a lot of the talent in this movie, well, we should point out, it was a female director, it was a female writer, based on a novel by a female author, with a strong female cast.
Female screenplay.
and a lot of them had not done hardly anything else before or since.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering, obviously there is a story there. I just couldn't find what that story was, but someone, had the vision and thought that this was a good idea.
Yeah, I can't say for sure there, but pretty sure Mike Figgis was one of the producers of Traffic when it came out.
Hmm.
Um, where are we? So we've kind of gone.
What else happens?
What else happens? Oh, another thing that happened was, do you remember way back when we reviewed Portland Expose, the movie set in the 50s about the gambling invasion of Portland?
That was based on a novel that was set in the 90s.
Zing. In that movie, we had a discussion when they were using their 50s slang. Oh, now it all makes sense. Using their 50s slang, where somebody called somebody a tea-head. And
Oh,
one of
she
our
did.
one of our
That-
listeners said, "Oh, that was an old slang, was slang for marijuana, someone that smoked marijuana."
Yeah.
And somebody in this movie during that tattoo scene says something about how we're
Absolutely.
not a
Jenny
tea-head.
Lewis calls
Yep.
you're
You're just a tea head.
you're just a tea-head.
and I wonder if that was taken from the novel, just like
That's
pulled
what just
directly.
clicked, was like, oh, if this was set
Uh-huh.
in the 50s, maybe that makes
Huh.
sense.
Wow.
So anyway, I thought that was funny because I'd never heard
Nice
that before.
pickup.
That tea head. I did like how the scene where they're all getting tattoos and stuff like that does end in a pillow fight.
Oh, you're right.
By the way.
The movie couldn't escape its own trappings.
Let's see. So the rest of them, there's a couple of more montages in the movie of them deepening their friendships and stuff like that. They go to the grocery store inexplicably and put a condom on a cucumber in the middle of the grocery store
Because girls.
because girls, yeah, girls montage. She also, one of the girls, I think it was Movie Madness, says, so bad.
Sorry.
Violet.
Violet.
Her real name is Sarah Rosenberg. Thank you very much.
Okay, where Ms. Rosenberg says autoerotic exhilaration,
Yeah.
which I thought was
That
funny.
was clever. That's going to be the name of my.
I don't know if was that a mistake or was she
No.
making a joke?
No, because they were talking about masturbation and not
Right, but it's autoerotic
asphyxiation, right? And so
But she says exhilaration.
It's a
Right.
play on that.
Okay,
Todd.
so it wasn't an
Exactly.
accident.
When a
Correct.
girl,
Like they didn't. Okay,
when a
They-
girl loves herself,
that's exhilarating.
she shares a very special kind of hug with herself. Where are we? We get a couple, like some montage. That's where we get a skate park, and the park block shows up, the Sunset Bridge.
yeah, the South Park blocks. That was cool to see.
What else? So then, go ahead.
No,
Anyone? Foxfire. At some point,
well, one thing we haven't talked about, I just remembered, is Angelina Jolie's character's name, which is interesting.
yeah. What is her character's name?
Legs.
Legs is her character's name, which was a little ridiculous at first. And then she gives the reason. Why does she say that again? We just watched
Because
it.
she vaults without poles.
Yeah, she
Does that just
says,
mean she has strong legs?
I vault without poles. Maybe I can pull it up here because that was in the same scene.
That doesn't make any
as-
sense to me.
Maybe that's
it would-
another 50s-ism that.
It would make more sense to me if it was like she's trying to like reclaim, like de-objectifying the word in a way.
Right.
It's like a part of a woman's body that's usually found to be, objectively.
Right. All right. I should find it here in a second. So in the scene where she's standing on top of the Burnside Bridge, she steals Maddie's. I keep calling her. She just looked like maybe art portfolio. Let's see. I think this is it here.
Legs. What about them? No, that's what people call me. I vault without poles. That sort of thing.
That sort of thing.
That makes no sense.
That's movie logic if I've ever heard
Like
it.
a vault. Well, yeah.
I'd just go with it.
We're calling her legs. I don't care why. Give her any reason is fine.
She vaults without poles.
She vaults without boards. That sort of thing, Just write that in there.
You got it good. Moving on. Print.
Uh, so there's also a carjacking scene on top of the
Right, because things
Vista
sort of
Bridge.
escalate with the girls.
Yeah, one of the boyfriends. Now, so that scene I couldn't quite figure out. Is there a different girl in the carjacking scene that sets up the two Foxfire girls to get kidnapped, to get taken by the girls? Because she
So
asked for their help or something like that, or was
right,
that?
so
Yeah,
some of
that was confusing to me.
some of the boys in the school, the teacher that they beat up is also the football coach
The
at the
coach, and he got
school.
fired because of this.
Right. And so the football team really liked him as a coach. And so they're mad at the girls knowing that they're the ones that caused him to be fired. So they found out where these girls are hanging out and they came over to like threaten and intimidate them. And it kind of ended up going the other way where the girls were, making all these threats to the guys. And so I think that really set them off. And so movie logic, let's rape them.
Yeah, so they pull up in a old Blazer or some old Suburban or something and try to take maybe and one of the other girls, I forget which other one it
Maddie
was,
and,
Maddie and
and Rita, maybe.
maybe. But instead, Angelina shows up with her knife and pulls it on the guys, and they end up stealing the truck, taking it for a nice little joyride. The cops start chasing them, then they crash. They crash, which I thought was cool too, because
Oh,
they had a shot from inside that car as it was like flipping over, and you can see people inside. That was really neat too.
it was really intense.
Yeah.
Like they
was a
they
real-
really rolled that down a hill.
Yeah.
and
Um, so they get taken to court. Only Angelina Jolie gets in trouble because she kind of takes the fall and she has a prior record.
So this is where I
yeah.
have more questions in this scene than any other scene in the movie. It's
Okay.
like, what happened in court?
Yeah.
Because you're right. They cut to court, and then we find that all of them are going to get set free on probation, except for Legs, who has to go serve, I don't know, a year, 6 months.
6 months to a year.
Yeah. And then shortly after, we see the girl that tried to bait them. She ends up telling the judge, I lied.
I lied.
Which ends up ultimately Legs gets set free over that. But like, what did she lie about?
It implied that that girl, because I think their original plan was for that girl to
lure them.
lure them up to get kidnapped by the guys. Because when they're struggling, one of the main guy says it's going to be one girl's word against the other,
Right.
and they're not going to believe you, implying that all of the boys plus this girl was going to have the one story of she got in willingly.
Oh.
Right.
So that's what she lied about in court. But that's another YA thing I felt like, because that's never addressed. She like perjured herself and sent other people to jail. And she's there sitting when Angelina Jolie gets released from prison. She's sitting there in a car just watching her walk away from prison. She's like in the corner.
So the lie must have been more than just those girls got in willingly, because when the judge sentences Legs, she says like, you are the most culpable, and but why would she think that she is the most culpable? Because she's the one who pulled the
She
knife.
has the
maybe?
She
record.
pulled the knife on them
And then stole it. Yeah. I
and-
guess.
and then not Violet, the
Shimizu?
other girl that was
Gloria?
Maddie?
that lured
Oh, okay.
that
The,
did the luring.
the
okay.
unnamed girl.
The unnamed girl that did the luring waited until court was ended and then went back into the courtroom and contacted the judge and said,
And said,
But was that the same day, or was that a
I think
week
that
later, or was that like
I felt
a
it was a
year
little while
later?
because there was a montage, before.
And we have no idea how long that montage
Part
is.
of the
Yeah.
montage was Angelina Jolie in jail at like midnight, walking around the prison yard by herself in her street clothes, and I was like,
Right.
"Wow, lax jail! Good grief!" She's just like walking around by herself.
So
in the, middle
the
of the
movie
night.
gives us no clue how long she was actually in
Yeah,
jail
I
for.
felt maybe like a week.
But it kind of seems longer, because by the time she gets out of jail and then the gang starts coming back together, they interact with each other like they haven't seen each other in
Maybe.
ages.
Maybe it was all summer.
And that's
or
when they
something.
learn. That's when they learn to use the internet. They're putting the band back together.
That
then-
was so great. It was
Let's talk about the internet.
the internet.
The
So
internet.
not
"Oh,
only
you
is
did
she
make a screenshot of
I
that."
did make a
see if I
Photoshop
can
of
find that.
internet. Not only does she do master Photoshop squiggles, she also opens up her browser, I guess, but there's just a big, huge button in the middle that just says "Internet," and then they click on it, and there's like some sort of text.
Well,
Suddenly,
on AOL, that's kind of what it
What it
looked
looked like,
like.
just huge buttons like that.
Yeah.
It was 1996, so
Yep. That was
yeah,
how
it was
you got
really
on
funny.
the internet.
Internet. I wrote that down with big, huge letters. We get a couple really great montages in this, and the reason I played that clip at the beginning is because I have found my favorite new song. So most of the soundtrack of this is like, if you can't afford Alice in Chains, try this band or whatever that you've never heard of. But there was two songs that I really dug. One of them I'd heard before, the other one I hadn't. This one is called "Trouble" by Shampoo.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble. Something's come along and it's burst our bubble. Uh-oh,
Which I've been
we're
singing
in
all
trouble.
day
Gotta
long.
get
And it's
out
I
of
think they might be Russian or something. We're going to probably get flagged for this, but they have some sort of crazy accent too. So I loved that song, but they also played
that song would have been right at home in Alyssa Milano's Teen Steam.
Oh yes.
totally. So that's my new favorite song, but they also had one of the there's the internet.
Internet.
I thought that said incest.
Oh, where's your head
No,
at,
Internet
Ryan?
US. So she was using a Mac, of course.
Yeah.
When you want to do high end
Internet.
graphics like what she was working
Did
with.
she click on internet.exe to pull that up?
There's well, not on a Mac.
Not
it
on
would
a
be an
Mac.
exe.
I wouldn't know.
Kid Thang. What in the
Kid
world is
Thang.
Kid Thang?
That's where the pedophiles hang
One of the
out.
choices, yeah, when you get on the internet. But the other song they played was by Candlebox. And before we started, I'd shown you guys a picture. Jenny Shimizu is the name of the actress who plays Gloria,
Right.
who actually didn't do a whole lot of acting, but she's like was this huge international model in the 90s and stuff like that. And when the name came up, I was like, why is that name familiar? And she was one of the people that was linked to / dated Madonna in the early 90s. And then after this movie, got together with Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie, I think, broke up with her husband, Johnny Lee Miller, who she had starred with in Hackers, which
Huh.
came out right before this, and kind of gave some more mystique to. So that was one Madonna connection. The other one, I
Right.
promised
At
you.
the start of the show, you promised two
Two-
Madonna
so the
connections.
the second one is this song, which plays during a montage.
I know Madonna's not on the soundtrack.
Madonna's not on the soundtrack. No. Let's see. So do you not know this song?
No.
So this is Candlebox. The song is called You. Candlebox is they sang Far Behind. They had a couple mid '90s hits, but they were signed to Madonna's Maverick label, which is why. Which is the second one.
That's kind of a weak
A little
connection
tenuous,
tie.
but Madonna's the reason everybody had to endure Candlebox in the mid '90s.
I expect a better Madonna connection on the next show.
on Body of Evidence. But yeah, I love that song. That's the one that took me back. So I think this is the
That-
most high-profile song was that one.
That is also the most 1996 sounding song.
It really is. Yeah, it's the "If You Can't Afford, Then You'll Love" version of this. So towards the end, after they go on internet and Angelina is released from jail
And they get the band back together.
during the montage of her being in jail, Gloria, played by Jenny Shimizu, gets hooked on heroin or crack. We're not quite sure, but she goes
she
under
kinda
the
goes
bridge.
from marijuana straight to heroin.
She escalated quickly
Yeah.
in that week.
But she's clearly relapsed.
Yeah,
because at the opening scene when the photos were being taken, she was drugged out.
That's right. She was passed out
Oh.
in the bathroom.
Okay.
That's the other thing. So it opens with maybe taking all of these pictures, and they're snarky pictures because she's talking about she's kind of talking trash about the other girls. This is before they all become friends, and they never resolve it. Shimizu finds the picture of her passed out in the toilet, which causes her to go smoke and start the fire in the art building. And I feel like one of the other ones toward the end sees a similar picture, but that's never addressed. Her character never is like, oh, I used to be a jerk who took pictures of other people and now I'm Foxfire or whatever. That never happens.
Yeah.
So they never, because she starts out so unlikable and she never
That's an
redeems
unresolved
herself.
character arc for sure.
Yeah. I forgot why I started listening to that or listening to that. Oh, so
T-head.
T-head, yes, the T-head becomes a crack addict during during the Candlebox montage, and so when Angelina Jolie gets out of jail, they rescue her, or they find that the other girls have rescued her, and she's detoxing off heroin in the abandoned house, and so
The flop house.
the flop house. And so they're like, well, what do we do? What do we do? Let's go to her dad, who we've seen a couple times, the guy from Twin Peaks,
Yep.
who was just shown to be just a huge abusive jerk and like
That's who
angry.
he was in Twin Peaks as well.
I didn't understand why he is a Caucasian man, as was his wife. Jenny Shimizu is, I believe, Korean or Japanese. I can't remember which.
It made it weird. Like, if you're going to have an abusive parent relationship, why complicate it by also having them be like adoptive parents?
But they never mention anything about adoption or that's
I mean, but
why
it's
or
clearly
I
implied.
I wondered if they were just like, well, the people won't notice. Like I thought they were just trying to slide it.
This is
slide it-
1996.
No one will notice that.
David Carradine.
So they
That's
go, so yeah, we were talking about that before the show. They passed David Carradine off as whatever Chinese for however long.
Are we going back to Breakfast at Tiffany's here?
Yeah, that's the other
Oh.
thing. Good old Mickey Rooney. So they show up at Jenny Shimizu's dad, who is a doctor. Correct? Is that why they go to him? They live in a mansion and they're obviously rich.
I don't know what he does.
Oh, I thought they set up that he was a doctor.
Maybe
and
they
that's
did.
why.
I don't-
So they like literally first they try to extort money from him to send her to rehab,
Right.
and then Angelina
Rehab cost $10,000.
and then Angelina finds grabs his gun, and they kidnap him.
Yeah, it kind of goes off the rails
It
here.
really, at this point, I wrote down this is where they're all making a series of poor and escalating decisions.
Right. Most movies, the escalation would have been like the carjacking, and then there would have been some resolution to that. This, like, we come back from that, and they just keep going.
Yeah, that was just like a fun little jaunt for them, that whole car thing.
Yeah.
Just enough time to get back on heroin and get back out on the streets. So they kidnap the dad and bring him to the flop house. I thought because he was a doctor, but
I thought because they wanted him to see that
help
she
her-
needs help
yeah, that was part of it too.
Yeah.
But then they just tie him
to a
to
chair.
a chair and gag him. And they give Clarissa Explains It All the gun of all people.
Right. That's
The least likely of them.
Exactly.
So she accidentally, Clarissa Explains It All, accidentally shoots the dad in the shoulder. And that's why I got mad. I thought he was a doctor because from that point he was no help. He was just he wasn't
Bumbling,
mortally wounded or anything. It's like, come on, like you have some idea. Because the girls are like, what do we do? And he just never says anything. He's like, say, bring me to a hospital. I don't know, do something, Dad. So they send him, I guess, just off. They drive off to the hospital with him. Some of the girls.
They do, and
the next time we see that dad who has been kidnapped and shot, and the whole time shown to be like an abusive asshole dad, by 2 minutes later, he has completely come around on everything and is now Father of the Year.
we feel bad for him because he was shot. He just needed the badness shot out of him.
It leaked out.
Yeah, and that's when in that. So Angelina runs away during that. That's right. The three of them bring to the
while they're in the
hospital.
hospital
Maybe, and Angelina Jolie runs away.
because it was her idea to kidnap him. And
Yeah, and it went all bad. Angelina Jolie ends up on the Broadway Bridge again at night, which looks kind of neat, and is going to hitchhike away. Maybe comes up and says, I'll come with you. And
then she says, "Stay."
yeah, and then just like, well, the next truck that comes along, we'll just know. And then maybe ends up saying no. And that's when I wrote Angelina was really good in that too. Like a lot of just subtlety and a lot of performance that was really good. And Angelina hitchhikes away and maybe climbs up on top of the bridge all by herself with no wires or safety equipment and stands there as a helicopter swirls next to her
Yeah,
for the next
that must
3
have been
minutes.
distracting.
Yeah. I mean, that really amazed me, some of those shots, because she is up there. There's no net under her. And she's on the part, meant at least for some workers to
walking.
walk, the gangplank or
But there's
whatever.
no railing.
No. I was astonished
It
because there she is.
I really think that she
Did
walked
that.
it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm just surprised it was ever allowed, I
I
guess.
agree.
right.
While
So
there's actual cars
traffic
driving
underneath. Yeah, like I said, the helicopter starting what must have been very close. Um, but anyway, yeah, and then it wraps itself up
It would have
like a
been
YA novel and ends.
it would have been a cool story if the actors really had gotten tattoos in that scene.
That would be awesome. I want Angelina Jolie probably
Let's
did do
Gave
that.
them
let's see if I can figure that out. Angelina
Jolie
Jolie
tattoo.
boobs.
Oh my gosh. I was kind of surprised to be reminded that there was a voiceover at the end. All of a sudden,
Was there one at the beginning too?
there was, because that's when she was talking about
Yeah,
like fakeness and all
This
that.
is my last year in high school, and
Because I had forgotten that
Huh.
the
I had
voiceover
it-
was taking place way, way in the future. She's like, and we never saw each other again, or like we
Oh,
saw
it-
each other a couple times.
it
and
got
that's
really
it.
weird because she was like, and everywhere I go, I would always stop at a train station and an airport. It's like what? What?
We've never been there in the movie, so I don't know what significance that has.
It's like there's no guarantee a place like that would stand any chance of finding someone over any other place.
Yeah. So that was funny. I was reminded that, oh, apparently this is all a flashback, which I guess for the book makes sense if it was a flashback to the 50s, maybe. And that was the whole conceit of it. But
Hey, wait. If it was a flashback to 1996, maybe the movie takes place in 2018.
there
the
we
whole
go.
thing is a
Oh my
flashback.
gosh. We've cracked it right open.
Twist ending.
Well, any other thoughts, Mark? Any more thoughts about Foxfire?
Foxfire. No. It's like
You're
It-
just gonna have that
we-
the
yeah, we-
Peter Facinelli's butt picture
Exactly.
playing over and over again.
yeah, I still don't quite understand what the intro arc of her being an edgy artist, like
It didn't
What-
serve any purpose or come back at all.
at all.
I wonder
Like-
maybe it did in the book. Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Is this movie at all remembered?
Well,
Either
that's why I said when
positively
I
or
asked about it yesterday, I think for the people who grew up around here when it was released, I think so, because I think I've gotten either a "What's that?" or a "Oh my gosh, I remember that." It's Angelina Jolie standing on top of the bridge.
Sarah Johnson Brewer says, "I love this movie."
Oh, there we go.
No.
I guess we
I-
could have just asked.
certainly don't remember this movie.
No, and I think it must be like you remember it because you grew up around here, sort of thing. But on the scale, so where does this fall in the scale of the movies we've watched, as far as a legitimately good movie?
It's certainly watchable,
Mhm.
and it certainly shows some really cool stuff in Portland.
Yeah, and it was really neat to see Angelina Jolie at 21 years old and like being legitimately good and doing interesting things and.
Mhm.
I still wouldn't say it's quite as entertaining as something like Fatal Revenge.
On the entertainment level, no, but what about on the like if we wouldn't if we weren't talking to somebody that was into bad cinema, they're like, oh, well, were there any movies that were decent made there?
That's true.
Where would this fall for the general audience? Do
I
you
think this would be the top of probably towards the top of the pile
yeah,
for
I would agree. I would still think. Speaking about competence and movie making, I would rank it. Free Willy is probably the highest
True.
on the list, followed by Halloween Town, followed by Foxfire.
Wow.
Is probably how I would do that.
Huh.
I hope that was a joke.
What other really like legitimately good movies have we watched so far?
Did you just call Halloween Town
a
legitimately good?
movie.
It's not for us, but I think the first Halloween Town is
Wow.
look, it's not like
It
you're
does
going
have
to
Debbie
this
Reynolds.
the cinema to go watch Halloween Town, but like when you watch it on TV, you're like, oh, that's cute. Like that's a cute movie for what it is.
I had a much easier time getting through Foxfire than I did Halloween Town.
That's true, I guess. They both kind of have a Disney-esque vibe to it. although I
Like this
guess-
movie didn't. Most of the time when I watch these movies for this podcast, they feel long, especially when we have to watch
Yeah.
it like the second and third time.
Yeah.
This movie, it
was
just felt like a
watchable.
normal movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then maybe it's number 2 after Free Willy. Maybe I'm wrong on my Halloween Town. Be able to go revisit that again. Anything else, you, Brian? Final thoughts on Foxfire? Would you recommend people watching it?
Yeah,
Is it hard to find?
I would say it is the perfect entry level for someone looking to see a movie filmed in Portland.
That I think
Yep.
is perfect
Yeah.
because there's a lot of great Portland footage in this, especially of the bridge, which is really neat.
And it's got man buns and boobs. It's got something for everyone.
Indeed.
All right, so yes, do check it out. I'm sure there's clips on YouTubes that you can find.
YouTubes. Oh
Um,
my word.
well, that then does it for Foxfire.
It does.
Do we want to talk about our next movie before we do
Oh.
our wrap up, Brian?
Yes.
It is up to you. Our next movie.
It is. So I found something that I think you're going to be excited about. Okay, Mark, do you have that photo that I sent you?
Ooh,
If you do, you should pull that up.
Okay,
I'll play
it's gonna
Candlebox in the
it's
meantime.
gonna take a second here.
we'll have our own montage.
Todd, will you give me a tattoo?
Only if you slowly remove your shirt.
I think we need photos of us giving each other tattoos.
Oh my word!
That'll be the trailer for this episode.
You
I've
don't
seen-
know this song for
I've
real?
seen
No.
Todd's facial reaction when he sees my bare chest.
Which that.
What would
How can we add context to that?
what kind of tattoo would we get?
Oh my gosh.
Would it be the Broadway?
We would. We should legitimately just get these same ones from Foxfire.
Okay, hold on. I've got the email.
Foxfire.
All my internets are
while,
slow.
you know,
because-
while Mark is doing that, we can go ahead and plug our Patreon page.
Oh yeah, why don't you
Yes.
talk about that?
Yes, Portland at the Movies is on Patreon, and we would absolutely love it if you like what we're doing, you like these shows that we're bringing you. Please support the program by giving us a pledge, whether it's a monthly donation or a one-time thing. Any little bit helps because we do have to buy these VHS tapes. We have to spend time tracking these movies down and doing the research, and we have a lot of fun doing that. But it would really help us keep going. And we've got a lot of movies to get through, something like over 100.
It's insane.
Yeah.
The
so
list of movies that we're compiling. So yes, so thank you to we do have a one
we got-
patron
yeah,
who
our first patron.
last show I promised the first two some of the VHS lamps. So I will be getting a hold of her and then the next person to join our Patreon.
That's
So
right. So if you are interested in helping out, that's at patreon.com/Portland at the movies.
Nice. You can also, and hopefully by the time most people hear this, I will have it done. It's not done right now if you're watching the live chat, but I will have added a bunch of these locations and some great photos, screenshots from the movie from those locations like the Burnside or the Broadway Bridge up at portlandatthemovies.com/map.
That is a fantastic map. It is your one-stop shop for all Portland movie scenes.
I pulled it up when I got my battery changed. I pulled it up to show the Homer and Eddie spot, which I had forgotten to add to the map, but have since rectified that problem. So all right,
Okay.
so Mark's got a picture.
So for our next, I'm
What?
gonna let the movie poster speak for itself.
Is
So
that Ed Harris?
that is Ed Harris. Can you make
It's
that
called the
big for us, Mark?
Last
Innocent
Innocent Man.
And it has the most incredible movie poster.
Wow.
I don't want to know anything about this movie. I just want to stare at that
Ed
image
Harris and Roxanne Hart.
in
What's the last?
Roxanne.
Hart star
Hart.
in.
Oh, sorry, in.
Who's Roxanne Hart? Should I even Google her?
Oh no,
have
but
to put
what?
the
Okay,
safe
so
search on.
let's examine this image here. So
It looks like
It's
a crime. It's a painting, like a pulp sort of
yeah, it's got like a pulp.
painting of someone dead. Looks like a hooker dead on the street, and there's cops looking, and then a big jeans. He's wearing jeans with his
Yes, he's wearing
suit jacket.
jeans.
So this was made in the 80s, I'm assuming. Ed Harris standing there. It looks like a Drew Struzan
Totally
type of
like a
painting.
Drew Struzan knockoff.
Yeah. Just like you get Candlebox when you can't get Allison Change, you get
It-
whoever did
it-
this.
it-
and
this
you
Is
can't
she
woman
get-
behind bars?
It looks like she's behind bars.
She's behind bars, and then like the prostitute is laying dead on the Max tracks with a gun and a police hat by her head,
That looks.
and she's
and
half
there's
naked.
An empty witness stand in the upper corner for some reason, which is
Oh.
weird. So Roxanne Hart has been working ever since time started. It looks like
Oh,
she's
wow.
been. She was in Highlander and Oh God, You Devil and Remington Steel.
Oh,
in a
was she the
couple
main girl in
episodes.
Highlander?
Brenda Wyatt. I don't know. I don't
remember.
remember her name.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1987, The Last Innocent Man, a TV movie. So, ooh, that's exciting. So stay tuned for that. We'll bring you that next month. You can hear us on Fun Employment Radio, on the Fun Employment Radio Network, where this show streams, and the show I do with Mark called The Mark and Toddcast can also be heard there. Fun Employment, Greg and Sarah just got asked to do a Reddit AMA for
Ooh.
the Portland subreddit. So
Oh,
I'm
fun.
not sure the date on that, but listen to them every day because you should be doing it anyway. Portland Movies also does we have a YouTube channel where we just compile these videos. So if you want to watch the past episodes to show when we're talking about screenshots or clips from the movies, that's a good place to do that. Other than that, is that it? Are we done? Is Foxfire behind us?
Yeah.
It is.
All right. I have a sinking suspicion that quality-wise, we're going to be back down in the dumps for a while.
It's only
which is okay,
downhill from
but
here.
I'm glad to see because I get kind of paranoid. It's like, is anything going to be good at this point?
And this came out
And that was really, yeah, it was really enjoyable.
post
So
Homer and Eddie.
we're living in a post Homer and Eddie world now. So I'm gonna take you out on the podcast with "Trouble" by Shampoo. I'll probably cut out the of the Facebook video so it doesn't flag us. But enjoy "Trouble" by Shampoo.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble. Something's come along and it's burst our bubble. Yeah, yeah.
How
Uh-oh.
great!